Welcome to Session 1 of the Internal Map of Reality. This material is being offered by Rose 777 and myself through a Patreon live stream. So you can join us by going to patreon.com/Stephen D. Oliver, all of one word. The link will be in the description. Now, this is the first of 10 sessions or units, and Rose and I decided to break them into smaller segments so that we could play them, join the live stream, discuss it, and then go on to the next session. So it might be that one session really takes 2-3 live streams, but we're in no big rush. So let's get into it now. I will move to my PowerPoint. Okay, so as I said, this is session 1, and I have down here 11 a.m. Eastern. That's when the meditation section part of it starts, and then about an hour later, we go to the Patreon portion. I highly recommend that you watch the first portion, join with the meditation group, because meditation is the key to breaking into the mystery of your internal map. It was a gentleman by the name of Napoleon Hill who first introduced the idea that you can change your reality by the way you think. So it's not so much who you know, or it's not so much what you do, it's not so much how much money you have, but it's really the way you think that matters. Napoleon Hill. So here's one of his famous quotes. "A positive mind finds a way it can do. A negative mind looks for all the ways it can't be done." Okay, let me repeat that again. A positive mind finds a way it can be done. A negative mind looks for all the ways it can't be done. So that's Napoleon. So if you want to do some pre-research into the units, go look up Napoleon Hill. He published a famous book, Think and Grow Rich, but he also did in the 50s and 60s some live video presentations that you can find on YouTube and on the internet. Highly recommend you take a look at it. Okay, so what resources will you have? Well, you'll have the same resources that you have in the meditation section. We'll be doing these weekly streams. And of course, as a patron, you'll have access to the patron-only streams. There will be additional information provided to you depending on your level. If you come in as one of the early bird $5 a month members, you'll have access to everything, all the videos, all the information. If you come in as the $10 a month internal map, that's signaling to Rosa and me that you want as much information as we have available, so you'll get copies of all the material that we share. You'll get additional little assignments to help you understand the material. And of course, there will be additional opportunity during this whole progress to have impromptu live streams and whatnot. So I'm even thinking of creating a chat group, but we'll talk about that later. If you are the $20 a month core group member, that flags to Rose and I that you really want to not just understand this material, but you want to be able to use it in your life and you want to be able to benefit from it. So those are the 3 levels, and you'll get more on that as we go. So here are the 10 sessions, And again, as I mentioned, each session could be more than one actual live stream. It could be many live streams. Again, I'm in no particular rush to fly through this material. I'd rather go through it, break it into smaller pieces so that everyone can participate and get the material, lots of opportunity to ask questions. But here are the 5 sessions. The first one that we're doing now, we're going to need to do a peekaboo as to what the map of reality is. What is it, and why do we have one? Then we'll, on the next session, we'll look into modes of thinking. This has been touched on in the meditation sessions, but it's a big deal. It's the way that we think, and this is the key to understanding how the map works. So, very important section. Then we'll look into something called beliefs. Your beliefs determine your reality. What you believe tends to be true. So, understanding beliefs, we're going to drill into that. Then, depending on your beliefs, you will have certain preferences. You'll filter your reality to support that belief. And so we'll look at filters. Quite often, if you're trying to make changes in your life, you really are having difficulty because your filters keep directing you back to your original state. Number 5, again, is one of my favorites. It's something called a timeline, and it's a internal representation of everything that you have experienced, everything that you're experiencing in the present, and what you anticipate to experience in the future. So it's a past, present, and future internalized representation of you. Now, once you learn how to access that and work with your personal timeline, then you can heal things. And there's something in your timeline. If there was any injuries in your past, you can go back and heal them conceptually. And then in session 6, we'll look at values. And values are things that you hold to be of importance in your life. And if you think something's important, you're going to spend more time on it. So whatever you think is a value, that's what you're going to look at, think about, and put energy into. Then we'll go into metaprograms. Metaprograms are instant ways that we manipulate our daily experience to get what we want and to project what we want. An example of a metaprogram is when you say someone is an extrovert or you say someone is an introvert. That's a metaprogram. It doesn't really tell you anything about that person, but it tells you how they're likely to behave. So metaprograms give you some indication of how someone's going to behave, but more importantly for you, it gives you the constraints of how you have developed your own personal map. Then we'll go on into session 8. We'll look at strategies for motivation. And this is a big deal because if you understand what your internal strategies are, you can change those, you can improve those, you can work on those. And whatever strategy you have, that will determine what outcomes you get in life. Now, if you're getting fantastic outcomes and you're happy with your current situation, you don't need to change your strategies. But if you're not getting what you want, if you're having some difficulties, it may be the strategies that you're implementing are not resourceful enough. So we'll look at how to improve your strategies should you need to. And part of this is understanding life goals. This is not a minor thing. If you know anyone who is successful in life and you ask them what it is they want out of their life, they will tell you. They will know exactly what their goal is. They know exactly where they want to go, what they want to be, what they want to do, who they want to do it with, and how much they want. They can go on a lot. So if you don't have a clear goal of what you want, then that's going to be an indicator to me that you're likely not going to get what you want. So define what you want, and you're more likely to get it. And then in the 10th and final section, we will look at something called modeling And modeling is a way of looking at people around you that you admire, that are getting what you want out of life, and how can you learn from them and improve your life. Okay, so those are the 10 modules. And as I said, we're going to break them up into 2 or 3 pieces so that we can drill into each of them in our live streams. Now, terms and concepts. In each of the sessions, I'm going to be bringing up certain terms. And what I have found in the past is when there was a confusion and when I had some difficulty communicating with people taking this course, it was because we had different meanings for the terms and concepts. And I think this has already happened in our previous live stream, in a meditation live stream, where an individual was triggered by something that they heard. Probably that they were triggered because they had a certain meaning for it. It was the word focus. So for that individual, the word focus was a no-no, and that triggered them. For me, the word focus is something that you need to learn to do. It's very, very important. If you live your life without focus, that's what will happen. You won't really get what you want. Okay, so here are some of the terms. We have unconscious, subconscious, filters, states of mind, behaviors, and motivation. So listen for those during this session, and look for clarification. And maybe that's something we can discuss during our after session talk. Okay, so here is the agenda that we'll be following. We're going to do some introductions, and then we're going to look at what a map is and dissect it a bit. Not in great detail, but enough to sort of understand it and to have a common reference point. We're going to look at who were the first people to get things going. How did this initiate? What were the first trends? So we'll look at that. And again, we'll talk about Napoleon. We'll also look at what organizations promoted it. And then we'll look at something called The Secret. And finally, in the last section, we'll dissect it a bit more. We'll look at how the map actually works. And we'll break it down. Again, this will be fairly high level, but I think it should give everyone an idea of what we're talking about here and how important it is. This may be overview for some people, that you may already understand this or may not, but I think it's very important that we're all on the same page. Okay, now a little bit about me. Now, for those of you who were in the meditation session 1, you heard me give a short presentation about me. Well, I'm not going to repeat that here. I'm going to go about this a little bit differently. I'm going to go through the same events in my past and sort of highlight the things I think that shaped me, that shaped my internal map of reality. Now, if you want the nuts and bolts part of, about Steve, you can just look at the live stream on session 1 of the meditation group. Okay, as I mentioned, I was born here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. And what shaped me and began to form my map was that in my family, change was the norm, and also a very high degree of belief in the Creator, and a belief that if you needed something and if you were doing the right thing, it would manifest. So a belief that things manifest because of your belief, because of your goodness inside. And I saw this happen in real time. So I saw how what you believe, what you think manifests, and how it could be used, that kind of power, how my parents used that kind of power to help others. Very, very interesting. Then that same perception of how thought can change your reality was highlighted even more in in children's theater group. Now, this was a high school summer project, but it actually ended up being a full-time job. I finished my high school, went to university, but decided after my first year in university to come back to this group who at this time had set up a full-time provincially funded agency. It was called the Youth Arts Agency. So I worked with them for a number of years, and it was in that capacity of a group leader where I learned more about how the power of thought and creativity could be utilized to promote learning. So, and that's where I met Amelia, and in my early 20s traveled up to Toronto. So I didn't leave for Toronto from high school. I was in my early 20s. Now, something happened to me in Toronto when I was there with Amelia, studying dance, professional dance, that I met a Taoist monk. And it was through meeting this monk that I really began to meet people who were, I'll use this word very carefully, extremely accomplished at what they could do. These people were not your typical people. Even in the Toronto Dance Theatre, there were people there that were exceptional. And I had the opportunity at one performance to meet one of the world's greatest dancers, watch him warm up, Nureyev. And that was an experience in itself, just watching someone at that level. So this Taoist monk taught me many things, and I followed him for about 20 years until he passed. And it was through these kinds of experience of meeting people who were, let's call them masters at what they could do. These people had a lot to teach me and a lot to give, and they did it freely, which was, and being a young kid, I didn't really know what the heck I was doing, but meeting these people. And one of the things, and I will share with you as we go, one of the things that I learned from these highly skilled people was that they didn't teach me all the time, and they only taught me something once. And quite often I would get an instruction, and that was it. If I didn't pick up on it, maybe they might give me a hint later on. And I didn't understand that. I was quite upset. I said, well, why wouldn't they repeat something? Well, I obviously didn't get it the first time. And the reason has something to do with the internal timeline, the way that we understand things. Because in reality, the present had passed. So they could no longer recreate what they had taught me, no longer do that than recreate the event. So when I was really asking, when I was sort of asking these different people to show me again what they couldn't do it, because what they were showing me was a snapshot in time. And I didn't understand that till many years later, that if you actually meet with someone who is quite accomplished, they probably won't teach you the same thing again, not because they're mean, not because they don't want to, not because they are trying to in some way restrict things and hide things. It's because they can't. They cannot recreate reality. It happens only once. So what an advanced instructor is going to teach you, they're only going to teach you once because they can only teach you it once, because it only happens once. Okay, so it was during that period I met someone else, a young lady who I eventually married. I married Janice, and we moved back to Nova Scotia to continue our life together. And we had 2 children, and they are now adults, Nathaniel and Lauren. And during this period, I studied traditional Chinese medicine and worked with the universities. Unfortunately, Janice was ill, and she passed, so she's no longer with me. She's gone on to her way. But her passing and the way she passed was something that I learned from and basically shaped me greatly. And it was through her illness and how she needed help that gave me access to understanding the internal map of reality. That was actually the trigger. If If I hadn't been trying to work with her as she was ill and getting ready to pass, I would not have discovered the map. So that's just a little bit of a piece, and I'll give you more and more information about what got me to where I am as we will study the map. And in effect, what I will do is I will share my map with you. How's that sound? Okay, so that's a little bit more about Steve. Now, if you want to share some of your information about who you are with me and Rose, there's our contact information. You can email me. And I really do want to hear from you. I want to know what previous things you've done, what types of meditation, what your interests are, and what it is you want from this course. It's very important that I understand so I can measure whether or not I'm helping you get that. So, yep, please send questions and comments. And I'll mention again, if anything that you hear or see that Rose and I are working with triggers you, understand that when you have a strong response, a strong trigger response, that is an opportunity for learning. So there's something you saw that needs to be addressed. You know, perhaps I have something wrong and you have something to share with me. Or perhaps you misunderstood something and I have something to share with you. So don't just do an Arnold Schwarzenegger and drop a bomb and disappear. Stick around if you're getting triggered. It means that we've got some learning to do and we can proceed in that. So let's take a look at what an internal map is, and that will be in the next session. So I'm going to end this particular portion right now, and we will pick up in the next segment on what is an internal map. So thank you for watching the session, and remember to ask questions. Ask questions. If there's anything, make notes, and I look forward to hearing from every one of you.